Battle Sister squads compared to Dominion squads. Which one is better? This is an important discussion, just like all of the other important discussions we've been having. At time of recording, they are the same points for a unit of 10. 100 points. But regardless of when you're watching, there will be very few points between the two units. One of the reasons comparing the two units is important is because they're both made from the same box set. So how do you build them? The instructions in that box also tell you there's an option to make Celestians with guns. They are not a unit that has rules, so we cannot compare the three of them together. Do not distract me with your martyrdom. This is about the Sisters and the Dominions compared considering the 11th edition core rules. This is to help you make a decision based on how they operate. We're going to go into a lot of detail in a lot of different scenarios. At least one of those scenarios will apply to you. My overall opinion?
Both is good.
You can have both in your army, but the quantity you choose may depend on this video's advice. The decision is yours. I'm not going to monologue to a conclusion. I say, while monologuing. It isn't like you talk back during these chats. You sit there, only now realizing your mouth is slightly open. You're a good listener. To have the models to have Dominions or Battle Sisters, you will need to buy this box. You can buy this box through my affiliates. It's cheaper than going through Games Workshop. And if this is your start into the hobby, there are brushes and paints from Golden Maple, also linked in the description, along with the discount code Vtuber, which you can apply on top of many in-store price reductions. The Battle Sister squad and the Dominions have the same basic stats. You know these stats if you play Sisters. 6-inch move, toughness 3, 3+ save, 6+ invulnerable save, 1 wound and leadership 7. Both units have access to the army rule, the Acts of Faith. This isn't like in 9th edition where it's core units only that had the army rule. Now even penitent units can use miracle dice. Dominions and Battle Sisters are a unit of 10. You cannot go larger, and in 11th edition, cannot go smaller. 10 is the minimum and maximum size. The only unit profile difference is objective control. Dominions are objective control 1 per model, Battle Sisters are objective control 2 per model. It matters for holding objectives. In the majority of missions, holding an objective is what scores you points to win the game. 6 Sisters outscore 10 Dominions and a character. That's a point for the Sisters. But the difference is all about the weapons and their abilities. That's what really determines who's a Battle Sister enjoyer and who's a Dominion appreciator. Well, both units have a simulacrum. It does the same thing. If you're on an objective, like the unit is on an objective, so this doesn't apply to any sticky objective rules, any objective secured rules. Your unit is on an objective, you control the objective, and it's the end of the command phase, you get to roll a dice. On a 1 to 3, nothing happens. On a 4, 5, or 6, you get that equivalent number as a miracle dice. So if you rolled a 5, you get a miracle dice of a 5. You don't need to roll a separate dice to see what miracle dice you get. This is decided per objective, not per simulacrum. Having a Dominion unit with a simulacrum and a Sisters unit with a simulacrum will only let you roll 1 dice because you roll for the objective. Both units have a cherub. Don't forget the cherub. You get a little cherub token in the box. That is the 11th model in this 10 model box. And they are very useful. After you perform an act of faith, like using a miracle dice of a 3 to pass an armor save, you get a new miracle dice. That means there is an option of using these units as a way of recycling low miracle dice. If you have a miracle dice of a 1, when a bolter fires, use the 1 on the hit roll, and then the cherub will give you a better miracle dice. That's assuming you don't roll a 1, and this is something you would do if you didn't have a way of using the bad miracle dice. Like the Hospitaller has an ability to use a miracle dice to bring back more models, the Dialogus has an ability to change any miracle dice into a 6, the Palatine has an ability, you feed her miracle dicey goodness, she gets rapturous blows to cause mortal wounds. None of these characters care about the value of the miracle dice. But if you have lots of bad miracle dice, use the cherub tactic to get new ones. The keywords of Battle Sisters and Dominions are the same, apart from their name. Both of them have grenades as a keyword, which means they can use the explosive stratagem. That is a key way the Adepta Sororitas cause damage. Battle Sisters are also battle line. Dominions are not. In an incursion-sized game, which is usually 1,000 points, you could have 2 Dominion units, but you could have 4 Battle Sister units. In Strike Force games of 2,000 points, it's 3 Dominion units max, or 60 Battle Sisters in a Strike Force game. There are some beneficial abilities that trigger from the battle line keyword. Like in the 2026-2027 mission deck, there's a twist, Martial Pride. If you're using that twist, battle line units can perform an action and shoot. What are they gonna shoot? It's the weapons. The weapons are where the differences really start to come in. Each unit will have 5+ sisters with basic bolters. One of them has a simulacrum to go with their bolter. At first glance, all of the weapon profiles for the sisters and dominions are the same, but they're not. Dominions have assault on all but the superior's weapons, unless you give the superior a bolter, like the basic monopose sister with a chainsword and a bolter, which is not a bad idea. Assault lets you advance and still shoot. It's a very valuable ability. The Battle Sisters can have assault weapons in the Bringers of Flame Detachment. In the Bringers of Flame Detachment, Dominions would also get assault on the superior's weapons. And while I could give that superior a bolter, I prefer a hand flamer regardless of other weapons chosen. Usually, your superior does not lose their bolt pistol, they swap their bolter for the hand flamer, so they still have a bolt pistol, you shoot the hand flamer and the bolt pistol. Because you fire close quarters weapons like pistols all at once, because each model either fires all their ranged weapons apart from pistol/close quarters weapons, or they fire just their close quarters weapons, of any number. This is how Seraphim fire 2 pistols at once. There is no hand flamer piece in the box on any of the sprues, but you can get a hand flamer from Celestine Sacrosancts, or the Seraphim box, or the Insidiants. Or if you don't have any of them, or you're using the hand flamers in all those kits, if you cut the front half of a flamer or combi flamer off and put it on the end of the bolt pistol in place of the bolter barrel, it looks kind of like a hand flamer. You can also cut off the ammo clip, cut off half of the fuel tank, and that will fit onto the pistol and be about the right size. Alternatively, you could cut off a sprue nub and it looks like a fuel tank. Hand flamer. As well as changing out their bolter, the superior can have a power sword or a chainsword. The power sword is better. Higher strength, higher armor penetration. It's the right armor penetration to kill anything that has a 5+ save, or worse. And that covers a lot of things. Orcs, Tyranid Gaunts, Traitor Guardsmen, lots of things. And it reduces the save of anything else, so you could have a go at stabbing a Chaos Space Marine, and it might work out for you. The power sword is going to be better than a chainsword, which has 3 basic attacks. These combat weapons cost no extra points. If you have a chainsword on the model, use a chainsword. This is not making a big difference in game. The basic ladies have combat weapons, and they have bolt pistols, but there's no armor penetration on their combat weapons. These are not the Imperial Agent version. That is the Sisters of Battle Squad. Totally different name, and they have AP1 on their close combat knives. Ordo Hereticus specialist equipment, I guess. The Battle Sisters can swap 2 of their bolters for other weapons. One of them can have either a flamer, an artificer storm bolter, or a melter gun. Another one can have any of those 3, or it can have a heavy bolter, heavy flamer, or multi-melter. The bigger versions are the better versions. If you had the monopose 2019 Battle Sisters, I would swap out either the flamer or the storm bolter for something else from another Battle Sister kit, like an additional Battle Sister squad that you bought. If you had the monopose kit and the multi-part kit which comes in this box, you could build a Battle Sister from the multi-part kit with a heavy bolter and another with a heavy flamer, put the heavy flamer in with the monopose girls, put the storm bolter that was in the monopose kit in with the multi-part sisters. There is no multi-melter in the box. You will have to convert in some way by attaching the top part of the combi melter, or by switching out the nozzles on the heavy flamer for melter gun barrels, or you could take a multi-melter from the Retributor box. Our holy trinity of weapons are better than the equivalent weapons of other factions. This kind of storm bolter is damage 2. This Ministorum brand flamer instead of the more common strength 4 flamer. But the melter guns are the same as other factions. I think they could do with another point of strength, or slightly extended range. The Battle Sister squads are rarely taken for their damage output, but it helps to have a theme to focus on. While the Holy Trinity can be fun, a heavy flamer, a melter gun, and a condemner bolter on the superior, If you focus, you can tailor the unit to a tactic. Melter gun and multi-melter, then inferno pistol or plasma pistol on the superior to fight heavier enemies, light tanks, elite infantry. Have a hand flamer, a flamer, and a heavy flamer for light infantry like Eldar and Hordes. Have a combi weapon, a storm bolter, and a heavy bolter for longer range shooting for a unit that wants to be held back protecting an objective. It is possible that when you watch this, the superior's combi weapon have different profiles for the different kind of combi weapon again. If that is the case, a combi flamer should work well instead of a hand flamer. A combi melter is better than an inferno pistol. I can't compare their stats properly because I can't see the future. But I foresee you clicking the like button. If you've already done it, I didn't expect that. Dominions likewise should specialize with their weapon choices, as that makes it easier for you whenever you have to choose between moving into line of sight of pure strain gene stealers compared to moving towards a ridge runner. If you couldn't see both at once, well, do you have lots of damage 2 Stormbolter shots that will rip apart the 2 wound gene stealers? Or have you got 4 melter shots that can break the toughness 7 vehicle? But the low number of shots and the invulnerable save of the gene stealers would make the melter weapons not a great choice against those horrible creatures of the Star Gods, which we also love because I play Gene Stealer Cult. In a Dominion squad, 4 of the models can swap their bolters or a special weapon. No options for the big guns, no multi-melters, no heavy flamers. It's the flamers, the storm bolter, or the melter guns. All flamers makes a good Overwatch choice as torrent weapons auto-hit, even on Overwatch where only 6's snap shooting would hit. You don't roll the dice, you succeed at the hit roll. All melter guns gives you a specialization into fighting heavy infantry and light vehicles. Caveat to this, at time of recording, melter guns cost 5 points more. That's a drawback to going the melter route, whereas the melter gun and 2 multi-melter shots from a Battle Sister squad is at no extra cost. But 4 melter shots from a Dominion squad is 20 points more. If you don't have the points for all melter, I wouldn't go with a mix based on what you can afford. Have all flamers or all storm bolters. At smaller points games like 500 points, 1000 points, a mix of weapons can let you take on a variety of enemies effectively, but specializing is better. And you will know what kind of enemies you face most often to help inform your weapon choice. For further comparison with weapons, are you sure you want a Dominion squad for its guns? For a similar cost, you can have 8 melter shots from 4 multi-melters instead of 4 melter shots from 4 melter guns if you take Retributors, and an ability designed around causing damage with rerolls and bonuses to hit and wound. Seraphim have 4 hand flamers in a cheaper unit of 5 compared to the Dominion's 4 Ministorum flamers and a hand flamer. The Ministorum flamers have 1 higher strength, but the Seraphim have even more speed than the Dominions and the deep strike ability. Sanctifiers also have more flamers and, like Dominions, can scout. If you are thinking about taking Dominions for their weapons, would you be better off with a different squad? But abilities is where the Dominions shine. Now, the abilities of the Adepta Sororitas Battle Sister squad is Defenders of the Faith. This is what we call sticky objectives. In the command phase, you controlled it, there was a Battle Sister on it. Even if that Battle Sister was battle shocked, as long as you control that objective remains under your control even if you have no models in range of it, until your opponent controls it at the end of any phase. Yes, even though the ability as written in the codex says the start or end of any turn, as it was overwritten by an updated version in 10th edition, the same applies in 11th edition. It's when your opponent controls it at the end of any phase, like the charge phase or the movement phase. One mistake people make is thinking that the objective marker has the equivalent objective control of the units that were there when it was stickied. It doesn't. Imagine it having 0.5 objective control. So even 1 objective control on an empty objective means the enemy will take it from you. Many of the missions in 11th edition don't give you or your opponent anything for holding a home objective. At least not for your primary score. Maybe sticky it to have hold more objectives than your opponent. And if your opponent wants to have that objective for their command phase, they will need to deep strike a unit in with rapid ingress, ready to score that. If you want and need that home objective, you should probably sit on it with half of either kind of squad. We're going to talk about splitting them with an immolator a bit later. I do recommend holding your home objective by having a unit there. There are secondary missions for you that give you points for holding the objective, and enemy secondary missions exist for taking it from us. So don't make it easy for them. Having a unit there means the enemy cannot deep strike within 8 inches of you. Defenders of the Faith really comes into its own when you reach the last turns of the game, not the first ones. There are not many units left, and at that point, Defenders of the Faith allows you to control 5 objectives with 4 units. It's also very valuable at low points games. Plant your flag, generate your miracle dice with the simulacrum, move on to the next objective, and in the next command phase, plant another flag and hold that objective. That is the one Battle Sister squad ability. The Dominions have a lot more abilities. They have Scout. In 11th edition, Scout works one of 2 ways. You can move 6 inches out of your deployment zone before the game starts, but importantly after knowing who goes first. So if there was an enemy infiltrating unit standing right there in front of you, you could move back to be better protected if you knew the enemy was going first and they were going to charge you, or you could move forward if you knew you were going first and you want to kill them right away. The other option is to have a unit that surprises the enemy where they don't know where it's going to turn up. You have it in strategic reserves, so it's not on the table. After deployment is done, then you deploy it within your deployment zone. So if the enemy had a very big horde unit like Chaos Cultists on one side, and they had their elite Chaos Warriors on the other side, and you've got 2 Dominion units, you can wait until deployment is done and then put your Flamer Dominions opposite the Cultists, and your Melter Gun Dominions opposite the elite Chaos troops. To use this Scout ability, every model in the unit needs to have Scout. If you have a character in the unit, it doesn't work, because none of our characters at time of recording have Scout. Palatine used to, now she doesn't. But there's caveats to this. If you're on foot with a character, you can't Scout. If you're in a dedicated transport, then you can Scout. All of our transports, the Rhino, the Immolator, and the Repressor, are dedicated transports. So even inside a transport, you can move 6 inches before the game starts, and because of the Holy Vanguard rule, as long as you start within a transport, even if you have a character that doesn't have Scout, you can still move forward up to 6 inches. However, at time of recording, the Holy Vanguard rule only works if it is a leader character in the unit, not a support keyword character. So if you have a Canoness with you, it works. If you have a Hospitaller with you, it doesn't work. I hope this is fixed by the time you watch this video sometime in the future. Dominions also have a reactive move called Righteous Awareness. In your opponent's movement phase, if any enemy unit ends a move within 8 inches of your unit, as long as you're not in engagement range, you can make a normal move of up to d6 inches. So you can get further away from the enemy who's going to make a charge. Now the charge is much harder. You could get everyone into cover. You could get everyone behind area terrain so they couldn't be shot by the enemy that just moved closer. You could get deeper into terrain so that another enemy unit can't shoot you because you were hidden. You can be hidden to one unit but visible to another. You could get more models onto an objective. That increases the amount of objective control you have to control that objective. You could move closer to the enemy to block them from charging a different Sisters unit. Then they have to make a difficult multi-charge, which will reduce the number of attacks they could make against their intended target. I would do this even if the enemy can fly. It's worth it because if they choose to take to the skies to try and fly over us to get to their original target, taking to the skies subtracts 2 from their charge roll. So rolling a 4 means a completely failed charge, even if we were just over 2 inches from them. Because 4 minus 2 is 2, and 2-inch charges always fail because there will never be a charge target within 2 inches. All units need to be more than 2 inches away from enemies after any move in the movement phase. Now the common tactics for the units. And this works with either unit. It's to split the squad with an Immolator. The squad is split into 2 equal parts. 1 unit of 5, another unit of 5. One of those units of 5 has to start inside the Immolator. The other unit can go wherever, in another Immolator, in a Rhino, on foot, it's all fine. The attack team in the Immolator will want the superior and all of the better weapons. That's the 4 special weapons for the Dominions. It's the special weapon and the heavy weapon, plus 2 other sisters for the Battle Sister squad. The other half, with the basic bolters and the simulacrum, stay on an objective, usually the home objective. That stops the enemy deep striking onto the objective, and it gives us the chance to keep rolling miracle dice. Dominions do this better because you usually don't need high objective control on a unit that's staying right at the back, and the Dominions have more flamers or more melters. And that spare squad of 5 also makes an excellent blocking unit, as they still have all their abilities. They can do a reactive move towards the enemy, making it harder for the enemy to charge a different unit, and you're only losing 5 sisters if that is the unit they choose to charge, rather than a full unit of 10. When you split your unit with an immolator, these are units of 5 from the start of the game. Each unit of 5 does not affect the other. If one is a 3 model unit and the other is a 1 model unit, only the unit of 1 takes a battle shock test. You don't group them up to decide if the unit's below half strength or not. The unit of 3 is above half strength. When each unit of 5 is destroyed, you get a miracle dice. And there's a special rule about cherubs, because cherubs are a unit ability rather than a war gear piece. But only one of the unit of 5 gets the cherub. That should be the sisters inside the immolator, as they're more likely to do an act of faith on a wound roll or a damage roll. Another idea, if you're using battle sisters for this, you can go around touching objectives. Could be objectives that other units have cleared. They get out, in the next turn, use Defenders of the Faith to stick at the objective, try and get a miracle dice, then get back in the immolator and move towards the next objective location. A different transport tactic is to use the Dominions for their scout ability, then let them go on foot. So a unit of 10 Dominions in a Rhino scouts the Rhino forward 6 inches, but it's for a different unit. We're getting that transport a bit further up the board. As long as all models inside can scout, the vehicle scouts. Then the Dominions will get out in turn 1, and a different unit, like Celestians or Repentia or Retributors, get inside in their place, and then the Rhino moves normally 12 inches. If it is a Rhino, you can fire 2 guns from the firing deck that turn. And that also gives the Dominions additional movement, because they've gone 6 inches, then they've disembarked 3 inches, then they get to move and advance as normal. So they're way more than 6 inches out of their deployment zone on turn 1. General tactics for the Battle Sisters involve staying on objectives, generating miracle dice. They have high objective control to control key points like the central objective. Don't shoot. You don't need to shoot unless you're going to kill something. Unless you have the right weapons to kill the enemy you're targeting. Because if you shoot, you lose hidden. While we as the Adepta Sororitas want to get close to the enemy to shoot effectively, not all of our enemies are the same. Necrons, Tau, lots of Chaos Space Marine shooting would be just as happy to fire from 20 inches away as 12 inches. Stay hidden and force them to come into our rapid fire Flamer and Melter range. Holy Trinity time! The Battle Sisters also act as a very good bodyguard for characters like a Triumph or like Junith, especially Junith, who sometimes is relegated to sitting by herself, very vulnerable, and generating command points. Junith's unit likes Flamers for concentrated overwatch. The Dominions move very quickly and hunt the enemy they're good at killing. Flamers for light infantry, Stormbolters for medium infantry, Melter guns for heavy infantry. They can also try tanks and monsters with their Melter weapons. Dominions are good at clearing away infiltrating enemies with immolator support. Melter guns take out Lictors, Stormbolters take out Space Marine Scouts and the Genestealer occult version of Genestealers, Flamers take out Poxwalkers and Eldar Rangers. Doing this with an immolator will get you close to them right away, and you can use Righteous Awareness to embark in a transport. It is a normal move. If you end a normal move entirely within 3 inches of a transport, you can get in the transport. So it's hit and run tactics, sort of. The detachment you're playing in can affect whether Battle Sisters or Dominions are the better choice. In the Bringers of Flame, the Battle Sisters have Assault that puts them on a very similar level to Dominions. But if there's a character, usually with a Flamer, like a Ministorum Priest with the Dominions, and they have the Fire and Fury enhancement, that's a lot of Flamer shots and sustained hits on the Bolters. In the Champions of Faith detachment, if you make them righteous, Battle Sisters get +1 ballistic skill. If Dominions are made righteous, they don't get that benefit. +1 ballistic skill is a good counter for the enemy having the benefit of cover. And that rule is there to let them represent Celestians. Celestians with guns. The Celestians with guns that don't have rules anymore, even though you can make them from this box. And with each detachment comes a disposition. Depending on the disposition you're playing, that may affect whether you take Battle Sisters or Dominions. Take and hold mission, you'll want Sisters. higher objective control to control the objective. That stops enemies coming a waddling up and saying, hey, this is my objective now, because of the objective control. Then they stand more than 2 inches away and there's nothing we can do and it's awkward. You wouldn't normally want to spend 2 command points to have some Dominions do a heroic intervention and charge them. Maybe Overwatch, but if you don't have Flamers, it's not worth it. So the higher objective control is valuable for take and hold. Dominions work rather well for a recon disposition. They're very fast. Scout and move and advance and shoot to help get into table quarters or to temporarily take a faraway objective. They have their reactive move to move behind a wall or off an objective, which denies the enemy victory points for killing a unit on an objective. In Purge the Foe, well, the Dominions move faster, and you are encouraged to chase down your enemy, but there is a surprising amount of victory points to be scored by taking objectives and holding them. Purge players, you have been deceived! Purge is take and hold with slightly more focus on the take than the hold. So use Battle Sisters. And if you've got your Purge the Foe disposition from Bringers of Flame, Battle Sisters can advance and shoot just like Dominions. The Battle Sisters will be useful because of their Defenders of the Faith ability, keep those objective and keep moving towards the enemy, while also holding more objectives than your opponent. In priority asset missions, the central objective is usually valuable. Apply high objective control to control it and have a dedicated unit to complete actions. That's the Battle Sisters calling. You can stay hidden and complete an action. You have objective control 2 per model. If you're playing Disruption, the disruption that says, I see you have specialized your army for a particular task. I am so confident that my random assortment of troops can do what you do, but better. It's a very bold disposition to take. There's a lot of taking objectives, a lot of killing enemies, a lot of actions to complete. So, one of each? 1 unit of Battle Sisters, 1 unit of Dominions? It's a detachment for very confident players, or players that want to have a fun mission, and it's for players that use the Champions of Faith in 1000 point games where that is all your detachment points, so you're locked into the Disruption disposition. And what have we said already about the Champions of Faith and 1000 point games? Sticky objectives from Battle Sisters is very good in 1000 points. The Battle Sisters get a bonus in the Champions of Faith while the Dominions do not. So, by that continued logic, Battle Sisters will be better than Dominions for a Disruption Adepta Sororitas player. And finally, character combos. In 10th edition, the only way you could have 2 characters in a unit was if the unit they were joining was the Battle Sisters. In 11th edition, Dominions can also have 2 characters. In either case, one has to be a leader type and one a support type. The Battle Sisters can accompany the Triumph of St. Catherine as a basic bodyguard. Dominions can't. That's a nice ablative group of bodies that will prevent las cannons and high damage shots from taking out the Triumph. Remember how we were talking about having units that are specialized for one job? Well, to take out the Triumph with Battle Sisters, the enemy has to get through our armor save of 3+ of our 10 Battle Sisters, and then they need high damage attacks to take out the Triumph. For players who play normal games that allow legends, Crusaders are a better option as a bodyguard, because they're cheaper, and the same logic works where the enemy has to apply one kind of weapon then another. Otherwise, we have a couple of guys with invulnerable saves who can tank some las cannon shots. The Imagifier changes your unit's armor save to 2+ and improves their invulnerable save from 6+ to 4+. That's kinda tough. It's better for tougher sisters holding an objective. Dominions don't need it so much. Or you use a Hospitaller instead, which also gives you good resistance to damage, but in the form of a 5+ feel no pain, and you get the ability to return models. 1 model in each of your command phase, or D3+1 if you discard a miracle dice. From experience, the Hospitaller performs better, even if they are slightly more points. A Palatine gives your unit lethal hits. That does well with Stormbolter's low strength and lots of attacks. It doesn't work with Flamers, as you don't roll a hit roll, so you can't get a lethal hit. Because the Palatine is mostly a combat character, they want to get in there, and Dominions are the unit that will help them get in there. Or, you can put them with Battle Sisters and a Dialogus in the Army of Faith. You use a Miracle Dice on the hit roll, the Dialogus changes that into a 6, that automatically wounds because it is a lethal hit, and then the enemy has their save, if they have a save, from a -4 AP melter weapon. While this combination works in any detachment, it's best in the Army of Faith because you get to do a second act of faith on the damage roll. And this also works on Overwatch. 2 models with melter weapons automatically hit and automatically wound, even though you're firing snapshots. This is better on Battle Sisters than Dominions because the multi-melter of the Battle Sisters has longer range, and you only need to keep 1 sister alive to keep the combo working. A Ministorum Priest works well with Dominions. It's another flamer, and it's a character that wants to get closer and attack the enemy in combat. The Ministorum Priest has their own extra special variation of Scout, so their holy mission, if attached to Dominions, they get Scout 6, so even if you weren't putting them in a transport, you can still scout with Dominions and a Ministorum Priest. A Canoness gives your unit the ability to use any stratagem for 1 command point fewer. Essentially a free explosive stratagem. Free Overwatch, and if the Canoness has a Brazier of Holy Fire, once per game, that's an even better Overwatch. Or you go into free detachment specialization stratagems. Extra armor penetration in the Army of Faith, which improves flamers and bolt weapons a lot. The Melter Gun would go to AP -5 and remove any chance of a save from an enemy that had a 2+ armor save, unless they had an invulnerable save. To survive better on an objective, for free, use Blinding Radiance in the Army of Faith so the enemy is -1 to hit you, which stacks with the benefit of cover, which is -1 to the enemy's ballistic skill. Those affect different things, one affects the roll, one affects the profile, so they do stack together for essentially -2. An enemy with a 4+ ballistic skill will need to roll a 6. In the Bringers of Flame, torrent weapons can have devastating wounds for 1 command point rather than 2 command points. And on the defense, we can reduce the enemy armor penetration by 1. Though that will only last against 1 enemy unit, Blinding Radiance in the Army of Faith lasts the whole phase. An Inquisitor can only join Battle Sisters. They can join Imperium Battle Line infantry units. Dominions are not Battle Line. Their Psychic Shockwave is Torrent, which goes well into an all-flamer unit. And with the power of their Rosette, there is a chance to get a command point back when spent. That isn't as good as a Canoness, because the Canoness reduces the cost. With an Inquisitor, you have to have at least 1 command point to spend, then you may get it back. This also counts as gaining a command point, unlike with the Canoness, so if there is a limit of 1 extra command point per battle round, the Inquisitor got that extra command point on a 3+. You couldn't get a command point from an Inquisitor and also from Junith or from discarding a secondary mission. Inquisitor Greyfax could join Battle Sisters only, Imperium Battle Line infantry, but Holy Saints of the Emperor will look at this woman and think, wife. Greyfax gives your unit anti-Psyker 4+ range weapons. If Psykers were popular in the meta, like every Space Marine player had a Librarian in all of their infantry units for some reason, as an example, Greyfax is a good choice to make sure those bolters wound on a 4+ minimum. Really, this wants devastating wounds at the same time, but that is not possible unless you're in the Bringers of Flame, and you're using Flamers, and you use the Cleansing Flame stratagem against a Psychic unit. At that point, you would have to know that you were facing Psychic enemies. Have you made your decision yet, Battle Sisters or Dominions? Comment below which unit and why. That will help other people to make their decision. But there's another character I haven't mentioned. The Dominions can have a massive damage output increase that the Battle Sisters cannot reach. That is explained in this video. Take a look and have a great day of 40k.